23,000 feet above the German countryside, February 14, 1944, 11:37 hours local time. A formation of Boeing B-17 flying fortresses from the 401 1st Bombardment Group maintains course toward the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt. The temperature outside is 41 degrees below zero. Indicated airspeed 165 miles per hour. The sky is clear. In the lead ship of the low squadron, Second Lieutenant Harold Fisher holds formation 30 feet off the right wing of his element leader. His aircraft is serial number 4231763, nicknamed Lucky Lass by a crew chief who painted the name 6 weeks earlier in England. The nickname will be tested in approximately 4 minutes. Fisher's hands rest on the control yoke with the practiced steadiness of a pilot who has flown 19 combat missions. The autopilot is not engaged. In formation flying at altitude, no autopilot can make the constant micro-adjustments required to hold position. His feet work the rudder pedals in movements so small they would be invisible to an observer. His eyes track 3 points: the lead ship's wingtip, his own number 3 engine's RPM gauge, and the contrail angle of the bomber above him. The work is mathematical. The margin for error is expressed in feet, not yards. The bombardier in the nose, Lieutenant James Calloway, is on the intercom reporting fighter positions to the navigator. The waist gunners traverse their 50s across empty sky, searching the sun. The ball turret gunner rotates slowly beneath the fuselage, his breath fogging the plexiglass. Everyone is doing exactly what they have been trained to do. No one speaks unless there is information to transmit. This is not their first mission to Schweinfurt. The target is familiar to every bomber crew in the 8th Air Force. 6 months earlier, in October of 1943, 291 B-17s attacked the same factories. 60 bombers did not return. The losses were mathematically unsustainable. The mission was not repeated until long-range fighter escort became available. Today, P-51 Mustangs are supposed to meet the formation at the initial point. They are not there yet. The strategic calculus is simple. Germany produces 42% of its ball bearings in Schweinfurt. Ball bearings are required for tank turrets, aircraft control surfaces, submarine torpedo tubes, and fire control mechanisms. Without ball bearings, the German war machine slows. The problem is equally simple. Schweinfurt is defended by the largest concentration of anti-aircraft artillery in southern Germany, and it is protected by 3 fighter wings. The 8th Air Force is willing to accept a 10% loss rate to destroy these factories. 10% means that 1 bomber in 10 will not return to England. The mathematics are reviewed at every briefing. The crews understand the numbers. They climb into their aircraft anyway. Fisher joined the Army Air Forces in February of 1942, 3 months after Pearl Harbor. He was 20 years old. He wanted to fly fighters. The service needed bomber pilots more than it needed another fighter jockey. He was assigned to multi-engine training at Roswell Army Airfield in New Mexico. He flew the AT-11 Kansan and learned how to manage 4 engines, how to think in terms of weight and fuel and drift, how to lead men who were older than he was. His instructor wrote in his evaluation, "Steady hands, good judgment, does not freelance." This was high praise. The Air Force did not want freelancers in the left seat of a B-17. It wanted pilots who could hold formation through flak, who could maintain altitude and airspeed when engines failed, who could follow orders when every instinct said to turn for home. Fisher was that pilot. He arrived in England in November of 1943 and was assigned to the 401st Bombardment Group at Deenethorpe. His first mission was to Bremen. He flew in the number 6 position, the slot known as Tail End Charlie, the last bomber in the formation and the most exposed to fighter attack. He did not break formation. On his second mission, the number 2 engine lost oil pressure over the North Sea. He feathered the propeller, maintained altitude, and completed the bomb run on 3 engines. On his 7th mission, a 20mm cannon shell passed through the cockpit 18 inches behind his head and exited through the roof without detonating. He did not flinch. His co-pilot later said that Fisher's hands never left the yoke. The culture of the bomber groups did not reward drama. It rewarded competence. A pilot who brought his crew back alive was respected. A pilot who brought his crew back alive 25 times was rotated home. Everything in between was mechanics and mathematics. At 11:41 hours, the formation begins its turn toward the initial point. This is the start of the bomb run. From here, the course is fixed. The bombardiers take control. The pilots hold heading and altitude. Evasive maneuvers are not permitted. The Norden bomb site requires a stable platform. The formation must fly straight and level for the next 12 minutes while the bombardiers synchronize their instruments. The German anti-aircraft batteries open fire at 11:42. The first bursts appear 2,000 feet below the formation and slightly ahead. Black puffs of smoke bloom in clusters of 4 and 6. The German 88mm guns fire shells that climb at 2,000 feet per second and detonate at a preset altitude. Each shell releases 1,100 steel fragments in a sphere 30 feet in diameter. The fragments are traveling at 4,000 feet per second when they leave the burst. At that velocity, a fragment the size of a fingernail can sever a control cable or puncture a fuel tank. The gunners on the ground are firing predicted barrage patterns. They do not track individual aircraft. They calculate the formation's altitude, heading, and speed, and they fill the sky ahead of the bombers with steel. The formation flies into the barrage. The mathematics are impersonal. Fisher watches the black puffs appear. He counts 6 bursts, then 12, then loses count. The explosions make no sound inside the cockpit. The air is too thin to carry the shock wave. The bursts are silent, which makes them seem unreal, as if they are happening to someone else, somewhere else. This is a psychological defense mechanism common to bomber crews. It does not last long. At 11:43, a shell detonates 60 feet above and 30 feet to the left of Lucky Lass. Fisher feels the aircraft shudder. He hears metal striking metal, a sound like hail on a tin roof, except louder and faster. The number 2 engine's RPM gauge spins down to 0. He glances left and sees the propeller windmilling. Black smoke is pouring from the cowling. Fire is not visible, but smoke at altitude always means fire. He reaches for the number 2 engine's feathering button and presses it. The propeller blades rotate edge-on into the slipstream and stop. The fire goes out. This is training. Every pilot has practiced single-engine emergencies 50 times before his first combat mission. Fisher does not need to think about the sequence. His hands move automatically. The co-pilot, Second Lieutenant Robert Harmon, is already adjusting the throttles on the remaining 3 engines. The B-17 can fly on 3 engines. It cannot maintain formation altitude on 3 engines while carrying a full bomb load, but it can stay airborne. The decision tree is clear. Maintain altitude and fall out of formation, or maintain formation and descend. Fisher chooses formation. A lone bomber at reduced altitude is a target. A bomber in formation has the protection of 50 machine guns. He nudges the yoke forward. The altimeter begins to unwind. 23,000 feet. 22,800. The lead ship is pulling away above him. He advances the throttles on engines 1, 3, and 4. The manifold pressure gauges climb past maximum continuous power settings. This is not sustainable for more than 15 minutes without risking engine failure, but there is no choice. He is losing altitude and falling behind. The bombardier's voice comes over the intercom. Bomb bay doors open. 30 seconds to release. Fisher holds the controls steady. The aircraft is vibrating now, a high-frequency shudder that travels through the airframe and into the yoke. He does not know if this is from the asymmetric thrust or from structural damage. He scans the instrument panel. Oil pressure is normal on the remaining engines. Fuel flow is normal. Hydraulic pressure is normal. The vibration is coming from somewhere else. At 11:44 and 20 seconds, the bombardier calls, "Bombs away." Fisher feels the aircraft lift as 6,000 pounds of ordnance drops free. The vibration intensifies. This is wrong. Bombs away should smooth the flight, not worsen it. He looks left through the cockpit window and sees the problem. The outboard 20 feet of the left wing is gone. It is not damaged. It is not shredded. It is simply absent, as if it has been erased. The wing ends in a jagged line just outboard of the number 2 engine nacelle. Control cables are hanging in the slipstream. Fuel is misting from a severed line. The ailerons on that side do not exist. Fisher's first thought is aerodynamic. The B-17's wing produces lift through a cambered airfoil that generates low pressure on the upper surface. The outboard section of the wing produces approximately 30% of the total lift on that side. With that section missing, the aircraft should be rolling uncontrollably to the left. It is not rolling. It is flying, though the control yoke is pulled hard right, and his left foot is jammed against the rudder pedal to counteract the asymmetric lift. The aircraft is balanced on the edge of controllability. His second thought is structural. The wing is not a single piece of aluminum. It is a framework of spars and ribs and stringers covered with skin. The main spar runs from the fuselage to the wingtip and carries the primary flight loads. If the main spar is severed, the wing will fold. The fact that the wing has not folded means the main spar is intact, or intact enough. He does not know how much load the damaged spar can carry. He does not know if it will hold for 5 minutes or 5 seconds. His third thought is velocity. The B-17's never-exceed speed is 290 miles per hour indicated. At that speed, the aerodynamic loads on the wing are at their maximum design limit. He is currently flying at 165 miles per hour with the throttles advanced. If he increases speed to catch the formation, he may overstress the damaged wing. If he decreases speed to reduce stress, he will fall further behind and become a target for fighters. The mathematics offer no good solution. Harmon is staring at the wing. His voice is controlled, but there is an edge in it, Jesus Christ. Fisher does not respond. There is nothing to say. The situation does not require commentary. It requires decisions. The first decision is whether to stay in formation or turn for home. A damaged bomber is authorized to leave formation and return to base. No one would question the decision. But Lucky Lass is still flying. The engines are running. The controls are responding. The formation is only 8 miles ahead. If he can catch them, he can stay with them. And if he stays with them, he has the protection of the group's guns. Alone, he is prey. He makes the decision without speaking it aloud. He advances the throttles. The manifold pressure gauges climb into the red. The engines are now operating beyond their rated limits. Engine life is measured in hours. Exceeding the limits burns that life at an accelerated rate. But engine life is an abstract concern when the immediate problem is staying alive for the next 20 minutes. The airspeed increases. 170 miles per hour. 175. The vibration in the wing becomes a visible flutter. The jagged edge of the severed section is oscillating in the slipstream. Fisher can see the motion from the cockpit. It is a small motion, perhaps 6 inches of deflection, but it is rhythmic. Rhythmic oscillation in a damaged structure is called flutter, and flutter leads to catastrophic failure. He eases the throttles back. The airspeed stabilizes at 172 miles per hour. The flutter continues but does not worsen. This is the maximum speed the wing will tolerate. It is not enough to catch the formation. The formation is pulling away at 185 miles per hour. The mathematics are precise and unforgiving. The top turret gunner's voice breaks into the intercom. Fighters, 6 o'clock high, 4 of them. Fisher does not turn his head. The fighters are behind him, and there is nothing he can do about them. His job is to fly the aircraft. The gunner's job is to shoot at the fighters. Division of labor is absolute in a bomber crew. The waist gunners open fire. The sound is a rapid hammering that vibrates through the fuselage. Spent brass casings clatter onto the deck. The smell of cordite fills the cabin. Fisher feels the aircraft yaw slightly as the recoil from the guns pushes the tail sideways. He corrects with rudder. The aircraft is becoming harder to control. His right arm is aching from holding the yoke against the asymmetric lift. His left leg is cramping from holding the rudder pedal. He does not ease the pressure. If he relaxes, the aircraft will roll. The fighters make one pass and break away. They do not return. This is not mercy. The fighters have seen the formation ahead and have calculated that there are easier targets. A damaged bomber alone is a target. A damaged bomber alone and slow is a guaranteed kill. But Fisher is not alone. He is 8 miles behind the formation, closing the distance at 7 miles per hour. In 60 minutes, he will rejoin them. The fighters know this. They leave. The intercom is silent except for the sound of men breathing into their oxygen masks. Everyone aboard Lucky Lass understands what has just happened. They should be dead. They are not dead. The reasons why they are not dead are unclear. This ambiguity is more unsettling than the attack itself. Fisher's mind is working through the aerodynamics again. The missing wing section should create a rolling moment to the left. He is counteracting that moment with right aileron and right rudder. The control yoke is deflected approximately 40 degrees to the right. The rudder pedals are deflected approximately 30 degrees. These are extreme control inputs. The aircraft is balanced at the edge of its control authority. If the damaged wing loses any more lift, he will not have enough control deflection to compensate, and the aircraft will roll inverted. An inverted B-17 at 22,000 feet does not recover. The aircraft is too heavy and the controls are too slow. Inverted flight leads to a spin, and a spin leads to structural breakup. The crew does not have parachutes that will function reliably at this altitude. Even if they bail out, the temperature is 41 degrees below zero. Frostbite occurs in minutes. They would be dead before they reached 10,000 feet. These are the facts. Fisher does not share them with the crew. There is no value in discussing outcomes that cannot be changed. At 11:51, the formation begins a turn to the west, heading for home. Fisher sees the lead ship bank and turn. He cannot follow. A turn will increase the load on the damaged wing. The aerodynamic force on a wing in a turn is equal to the lift force multiplied by the load factor. A 30-degree bank doubles the load factor. Doubling the load on a wing that is already compromised will cause it to fail. He continues flying straight. The formation completes the turn and disappears to the west. Lucky Lass is alone. The ball turret gunner's voice is tight. "We're not turning?" Fisher keys the intercom. His voice is flat, negative. "We'll turn when I have more altitude." This is partly true. Altitude provides options. At 22,000 feet, he has 40 seconds from loss of control to impact. At 15,000 feet, he has 25 seconds. More altitude means more time, and more time means more possibilities. But the real reason he is not turning is simpler. He does not believe the wing will survive a turn. He is flying straight, because straight is the only direction the aircraft will tolerate. Harmon understands this without being told. He does not question the decision. He is scanning the instruments, monitoring fuel, watching for fighters, doing his job. This is what separates good co-pilots from average ones. A good co-pilot trusts the pilot's judgment and focuses on his own responsibilities. An average co-pilot second guesses and distracts. Fisher begins a shallow descent. He is trading altitude for distance. The engines are still at high power settings, but the descent allows him to maintain airspeed without exceeding the wing's load limits. The rate of descent is 200 feet per minute. This is sustainable for an hour. By then, he will be at 10,000 feet and crossing the French coast, if the wing holds. The flight back across Germany is silent. The gunners watch the sky. The navigator plots a course that avoids known flak concentrations. The radio operator monitors the distress frequency. No one discusses the wing. The crew can see it from their stations. There is nothing to discuss. At 12:17, they cross into France. The navigator gives Fisher a heading that will take them south of Paris and toward the coast at Dieppe. This route adds 14 miles but avoids the heaviest flak belts. Fisher accepts the heading. Every additional minute in German airspace is another minute the wing can fail. At 12:43, the coast appears. The channel is gray and flat, stretching to the horizon. England is 90 miles north. The distance is 53 minutes at current airspeed. Fisher has enough fuel. The question is whether he has enough wing. He is now at 14,000 feet. The air is warmer. The controls are slightly more responsive. He eases the throttles back to maximum continuous power. The engines are running rough. Prolonged high-power operation has fouled the spark plugs, and carbon is building up in the cylinders. Engine number 4 is vibrating. The oil temperature is high. These are problems, but they are manageable problems. The wing is not manageable. The wing is luck. Halfway across the channel, the wing flutter returns. It is worse now, more pronounced. The jagged edge is oscillating through a deflection of almost 12 inches. Fisher can feel it through the controls, a rhythmic pulsing that travels up through the yoke into his hands. He does not reduce power. They are too far from land to survive a ditching in the channel. The water temperature is 46 degrees. Survival time is 30 minutes. There are no rescue aircraft in the area. The only option is to reach England before the wing fails. The coast of England appears at 1336. Fisher does not feel relief. Relief is an emotion, and emotions are not useful. He feels only the continuation of the problem. The wing has held for 2 hours and 24 minutes. It must hold for 18 more minutes. He radios Deenathorpe, lucky last to tower, declaring emergency. Structural damage to left wing. Requesting straight-in approach, runway 27. The tower's response is immediate. Lucky lass, you are cleared for straight-in. Wind 270 at 12. Fire equipment is standing by. Fisher does not acknowledge. He is configuring the aircraft for landing. This is the most dangerous part of the flight. Landing requires lowering the flaps and landing gear. Both actions increase drag and change the aerodynamic loads on the wing. The drag from the flaps will create a pitching moment that must be trimmed out. The trim change will alter the load distribution on the wing. There is no way to predict how the damaged wing will respond. At 2 miles from the field, he lowers the landing gear. The gear comes down normally. 3 green lights illuminate on the panel. The airspeed decreases to 140 miles per hour. The aircraft wants to descend. He adds power. The wing flutter intensifies. He ignores it. At 1 mile, he lowers 20 degrees of flaps. The aircraft pitches nose down. He trims nose up. The wing flexes visibly. The jagged edge is now oscillating through 18 inches of deflection. Metal is grinding against metal somewhere in the wing structure. He can hear it over the engine noise, a low groaning sound that rises and falls with the oscillation. He crosses the threshold at 115 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour faster than normal. Fast landings are hard on the brakes, but slow landings are hard on wings. He chooses the brakes. The main wheels touch at 13:54 hours. He lowers the nose wheel and begins braking. The aircraft decelerates. 100 miles per hour. 90. 80. The wing flutter is violent now. He can see the entire wing flexing. The tip is moving up and down through 2 feet of deflection. Something is going to break. At 60 miles per hour, the flutter stops. The wing settles. The oscillation damps out. The aircraft slows to taxi speed and turns off the runway. Fisher shuts down the engines. The sudden silence is disorienting. For the past 2 hours and 39 minutes, the engines have been roaring. Now there is only the sound of wind and the ticking of cooling metal. Harmon is staring at him. How did you know it would hold? Fisher does not answer immediately. He is unbuckling his harness, flexing his hands, trying to restore circulation to his fingers. Finally, he says, "I didn't." The crew climbs out of the aircraft and stands on the tarmac, looking at the wing. The ground crew is already there, examining the damage. The wing ends in a ragged tier just outboard of the number 2 engine. The main spar is visible, a thick aluminum beam that runs spanwise through the wing. The spar is cracked but not severed. The crack extends approximately 2/3 through the spar's depth. The remaining 1/3 held 26,000 pounds of aircraft in the air for 2 hours and 39 minutes. A structural engineer from Group Headquarters arrives within the hour. He measures the crack, photographs the damage, and calculates the loads. His report will later state that the wing should have failed at the moment the damage occurred. The aerodynamic loads in formation flight at altitude exceeded the fractured spar's calculated strength by a factor of 1.4. There is no engineering explanation for why the wing held. The report concludes with a single sentence: structural integrity was maintained through factors not accounted for in design specifications. This is the engineering profession's way of saying luck. Lucky Lass is stricken from the inventory and used for parts. The crew is assigned a new aircraft. Fisher flies 6 more missions and completes his tour in March of 1944. He is awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The citation mentions his skill in returning a damaged aircraft to base. It does not mention the wing because the details are classified. The Air Force does not want the Germans to know that their 88mm shells are capable of removing 20 feet of wing without downing the aircraft. This information might lead them to develop more effective fuses. Fisher returns to the United States and is assigned to Training Command. He spends the remainder of the war teaching new pilots how to fly B-17s. He does not tell them about the wing. The official curriculum does not cover situations that have no procedural solution. After the war, he leaves the service and returns to civilian life. He does not speak publicly about his missions until 1987, when he is invited to a reunion of the 401 Bombardment Group. A historian asks him about the mission to Schweinfurt. Fisher describes the sequence of events in precise, factual terms. He does not embellish. He does not speculate about how close he came to dying. When the historian asks him what he was thinking as he flew back across the channel with half a wing missing, Fisher says, "I was thinking about airspeed and altitude. That's what you think about." The strategic impact of the February 14th mission is difficult to quantify. The bombing disrupted ball bearing production at Schweinfurt for approximately 6 weeks. German industry compensated by increasing imports from Sweden and dispersing production to smaller facilities. The war continued. Whether the mission was worth the cost, 21 bombers lost, 210 men killed or captured, is a question the Air Force does not answer in operational reports. The reports document only what happened, not whether it should have happened. But within the bomber groups, the story of Lucky Lass becomes part of the informal knowledge that passes from crew to crew. It is not officially taught, but it is known. The story is told in barracks and briefing rooms, always in the same restrained tone, always with the same conclusion: the wing held and the crew came home. This is not inspirational. It is simply data. Aircraft can fly with catastrophic damage if the pilot maintains control and does not exceed the structure's remaining limits. The lesson is mathematical, not moral. Fisher dies in 2003 at the age of 81. His obituary mentions his service in the 8th Air Force and his Distinguished Flying Cross. It does not mention the wing. By then, the story has become one of thousands of similar stories from the air war over Europe, each involving men who did their jobs under conditions that should have killed them and somehow survived. The war taught them that survival is not heroic. Survival is arithmetic. You calculate the loads, you stay within the margins, and you hope the numbers are correct. Sometimes they are. Sometimes a wing that should fail does not fail, and you fly 2 hours on a structure that exists in defiance of physics and probability. You do not celebrate this. You land the aircraft, shut down the engines, and prepare for the next mission, because the next mission is always tomorrow, and tomorrow the mathematics may not be in your favor. The sky does not care about luck. It only cares about lift and weight and thrust and drag. Everything else is commentary.